So I work with a lot of new writers who are embarking on writing the first screenplay, right? And I help them rewrite that screenplay. And I also do a lot of like interaction with totally new and emerging screenwriters on like various Facebook groups, et cetera, et cetera. So I decided to come up with the complete beginner's guide to screenwriting, like a guide that I wish I had when I started out. And hopefully this, if you're a new writer or an emerging screenwriter, and maybe even a professional writer, I think there's things you can learn here, because this is just the basic things, both what is a screenwriter, how to get started, but also like how to turn your story, your idea into an actual story, and what's important when you're coming up with a character, and et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go through all of it in this guide. So be prepared and make sure to watch to the end, because there's a lot of nuggets here. I really hope that you can learn something from it and take something away from it. So how to start, right? That's the basics, right? That's the most foundational thing. How do you start becoming a screenwriter? How do you embark on this journey? Like, so you have lots of ideas, right? You have so many ideas. Maybe it's about one story. You just have all these ideas. You try to organize them. Maybe you have a lot of different ideas, which is all good. But now you kind of want to turn that into a screenplay. You want to turn that into a movie. And in order to do that, you need to read some screenplays, okay? At this point, of course, you probably haven't even written something yet. And you need to read some screenplays, at least to understand, just to start wiring your brain and understanding the format. That also ties into that you must educate yourself. Like, of course, reading screenplays is one thing, but you also need to go on YouTube and just type in screenwriting advice. Go on Google, do the same. Like, read articles, get some screenwriting books, right? Educate yourself, learn the craft, just get a glimpse of get a glimpse into this whole world of screenwriting, and really start to ingrain yourself into it so that you can learn it. And this is a long, long journey. You're not going to become a screenwriter after reading like Robert McKee's story or The Anatomy of a Story, 22 Steps by John Truby. You're not going to be a screenwriter after you read that, if you read those books, even though they're great books and you should definitely read them. But in order to become a screenwriter, you need to write screenplays, and you need to rewrite them. You need to learn to get feedback and take criticism, and don't take it personally. And then you need to constantly improve yourself and your screenplays. This is a very, very long journey. And that kind of ties into the last point here, like perseverance, right? This is a long journey. If you're a screenwriter, if you want to become a screenwriter, you're in it for the long haul. That's important to understand. The average screenwriter, the average professional screenwriter working in Hollywood, it took them 10 years to break in. Now, some are really lucky. First script, out of the door, that's very few writers. Most writers spend at least a decade or more before they even get their first shot at an actual job. Now, I skipped over a point here. You in order to get started, you need to choose a screenwriting software. Like, you don't go write on Word, okay? Don't write your screenplay in Word. Just don't do it. It's unnecessary, right? Because you have already hopefully read a screenplay and opened a screenplay, knowing how it looks like. It's not been written in Word, okay? There's a lot of free screenwriting softwares out there. Just do a Google search and you can find a ton of them. There's no excuse not to use screenwriting software, and most of them are free. You can also you can also pay for some, of course. Final Draft and Fade In is the two of the biggest ones. I personally use Final Draft. But once it's not that it doesn't cost that much. But if you decide that this is going to be a career path, that's a great investment, right? But until then, just use one of the free services. Again, go do a Google search. Okay, so now we have that great story. You have a really, really good idea. Now, the first thing you need to understand is it's all about character or characters. And when you have what is the story, right? It's about a character doing something. Something's happened to this character, and the character is going to go on a journey. Whether that's somehow this character is going to transform. It's going to go on a self-discovery journey. It's going to learn something. Or they're going to change, right? Whatever that is. Also, it can be a really cool character, right? It can be a very memorable character. Whatever that is, you should already now start to think about what is that character, that fascinating character that is in your story that we want to root for. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get back to that. Now, another thing, what a story is, of course, a story also has an entertaining plot. And entertaining plot means that you understand the structure, you understand how to view it together, so that you actually can take your audience on a journey and keep them invested from the beginning to the middle to the end. Now, also, every story has a world. Every story is set in a world, in a setting that is also just as much a character as your character, right? The world should be expressed and evolved enough so that we can also sense, when we move into your story, we feel like we are inside, we are really in the story. And how to do that, that's really by creating that world. And of course, your story needs heart. It needs heart, right? Your story needs heart. And what do I mean by heart? It needs to be about something. It needs to be about something moving. Like, if your hero needs to learn a powerful lesson about love, maybe the hero is incapable of love, and the hero needs to learn how to love. Well, that's the heart of the story. So another word would also be theme. Like, that's the theme of your story. And it could be tons of themes out there. There are tons of themes out there, and there are a ton of different ways to give you a movie heart. But it's also a very, very important element of it. Also, a story is something you need to go explore. And I don't mean to like explore your story, but you probably have an idea. You probably have a subject matter in mind. Let's say that's the theme. Or maybe, no, that's even better. It's politics, right? Let's say you want to write a story about a political figure. You probably already have some bias. You probably already have some beliefs about this politician, whether he's right or wrong, or she. But it's your job as a storyteller to explore this politician. And you need to explore both sides, both how this politician is right and wrong. Regardless of whether you disagree with it or not, you need to explore, and you need to keep an open mind, right? You're an explorer. As a storyteller, you are an explorer. You have to keep an open mind. And when I'm also you'll have to be able, even something as evil as Hitler, you need to be able to put yourself in his shoes and explore, how did he justify doing what he did? And you need to sympathize, maybe even empathize with him. That's how much of an explorer you are. You're an explorer of human psychology, you're an explorer of themes, etc., etc. And the last thing about story, right? What type of story is it? And of course, now we're talking about genre. Is it a horror movie? Is it an action adventure story? Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? There's so many genres to choose from, but it's really important to determine which genre your story is, because also choosing that also comes with a lot of expectations for the audience, but it's also really can really help you define the story later on when you're writing the story, right? Because comedies has a way, they work in a certain way, horror work in another way, an adventure movie works in a third different ways. Yes, there are universal story principles that will go beyond genre, but genre is really also it's kind of like the box of what you choose to tell your story in. So really consider what genre you're going to write your story in, because it's going to have huge implications to your screenplay. Now, the first thing. Now you understand what a story is. You you probably already have a story in mind. Now, the first thing we need to do now, in order to come up with that story and actually turn that idea into a real story, we need to have a great idea. We need to have a big idea. So, right. So the big idea, it always starts with a cool main character. What do I mean with a cool main character? And we're going to get into character in a second, but right now I just wanted to picture like Indiana Jones, Luke Skywalker, Wonder Woman, Erin Brockovich. Like, all of these characters are really cool in of themselves, right? And I see so many times new writers, and a lot of my clients are guilty of this too, right? I've been guilty of it too, of victimizing my character and turning them into a victim, and ultimately making them passive. But if they're passive, they can't really do a story, right? Your character cannot act like a victim. Your character can be a victim, but they cannot act like a victim, right? They're not the victim. They are maybe in a situation where they are framed as a victim, but they still need to have some cool factors so that we can start rooting for them. I'm getting ahead of myself. So again, that's the first element of a good idea, right? You need a cool main character. You probably most of my clients, people I work with, they usually have this already. Now, The next big thing, and this is what I see often lacks, the big problem, right? What's the problem this character is going to face that has enough fuel in it so that you actually have a whole story? What's the big crisis? Like for Jaws, right? There's this shark coming and killing this, like terrorizing this small town, and that's kind of the big problem they have to deal with, and it's really problematic dealing with it. And if you take any movie, and you will find any good movie at least, there will be a big, huge problem, and it almost regardless of the genre, right? But what's the big problem that can actually create a cool plot? Now, the next thing the next element of a great idea: obstacles. So, your hero wants to do something, right? They want to solve the big problem, but there are obstacles in the way. Oftentimes, that's the antagonist, like the villain, if you will. Some things are standing in the character's way, making it really, really hard to solve the big problem. Now, obstacles create conflict. They are essential for your story to work. So you need to already now start to think about, what are those obstacles? If you don't know it, you don't have a story. Make sure to find those obstacles, because stories are about crisis. They're about lives and crisis. Your hero will have an internal crisis, and there will be an external crisis. You need both of them. Now, another element of what a good idea needs is stakes. What's at stake for the hero? What will the hero risk losing by going on this journey? But also, what will the hero risk? Like, what if the hero doesn't go on this journey? What will the hero risk? What's at stake, right? If the hero doesn't succeed solving the big problem, what will the hero lose? So, again, another key element, because this is a key. Like, if you don't have stakes in your story, we're not going to care about your story. Now, the last thing you need to consider about when you're coming up with your big idea, right? And we already touched about it before. We're talking about the heart, right? The theme. What is the theme of your story? What is it that you want to tell that is grander than just your character? What is what is it that you want to tell with this particular story? Figure that out, and now you got something. And of course, you need to figure out all of these things, right? Cool main character, the big problem, obstacles, stakes, and theme. Now, you have that great idea. You have a good understanding of what that is, how to come up with it, and what elements there is. Now, let's talk about how to define your main character. Now, and how to make that cool main character that we can actually root for. Now, the first thing is your character needs unique strength. Have you equipped your main character with something with really cool strengths, like a superpower almost, right? We can go back to like a great example is like Indiana Jones, right? He has a whip. He's really smart. He got his cowboy hat. He looks cool. He's also like he's this really cool explorer. We can just look at him, right? He knows how to solve problems. We can also have like most superheroes, right? They have the physical strength of whatever superpower they have, but you can also take like Erin Brockovich, right? She's a very assertive character. She's very when she puts her mind to something, she's gonna do it, and we trust her to act because that's who she is, right? That's one of her strengths. She also loves her family, right? That's another strength. You need to come up with as many strengths for your hero that you can, because the more strengths your hero has, the more capable that hero is going to become. So that we as an audience can now start to root for this hero, because we know that the hero is equipped to deal with this big problem. Now, that's also why the problem has to be huge, because this very, very capable hero also has to struggle like overcoming the problem. So, right. What's your character's unique strength? Come up with as many as you can, and pick the ones you really, really like. But I see this too often in new writer screenplays. The characters don't have a unique strength. They don't have strength. They're not powerful. They're just a victim. They're just passive. They need strength in order to be active, right? They need to be capable of something, and we need to trust them to do stuff. If they are not capable of doing stuff, then you don't have a story. So make them strong, right? Make them powerful in their own way. But of course, they can't just be all powerful. That's just boring. We need to give them some flaws as well. What are their flaws? And we also need to come up with beliefs. What is their belief system? What is their belief system about the world? This is often also where you find your theme here, right? Because often they have a misbelief about the world, and they need to change their belief in order to have a better life. Now, it can also be this is often found in their wound, or a ghost, or a trauma, whatever you want to call it, right? Something happened to your hero in the past that has shaped this hero. Like that has created this false belief in our hero that they're suffering from, and they need to heal that wound over the course of the story. So what is your hero's wound, a ghost, or trauma? What happened in their past that kind of like shaped them who they are? What is their limiting beliefs, and usually that can be tracked to this thing right here. Now, another thing really you need to really consider, and this is again where your theme lies. Your hero needs to change. If your hero needs to learn a lesson. Now, there are rare examples, like Shawshank Redemption, for instance. The hero doesn't really change. Andy actually does learn a lesson, but in that type of story, he's a steadfast hero. He is, and with steadfast hero, it's not the hero who changes; it's the world around them that changes. But for most stories, probably your story, you want your hero to have a change. You want your hero to have an arc, right? They start somewhere, they have a problem in their personal life, they need to solve that, and over the course of the story, they change, they fulfill, they heal whatever wound they have, and they become better. They can become a better person, right? A more whole person that we can all learn from and aspire to be what they have. So within that change lies your theme often. Also, the last thing, and this is often overlooked, and this is a powerful tool for your characters, right? Contradictions. Like, take a look at like Ferdinand the Bull. We all know that story, right? This very powerful, huge bull, but a very sweet bull who just want to smell the flowers, right? Contradiction. It looks like a big menace, but really it's just a really cute, charming, sweet character who don't want to hurt anyone. You can also have like a charming thief, right? Again, a contradiction. It's charming, but he's also a thief. Oh, like Aladdin, right? Disney's Aladdin for once. Or Severus Snape is also another great example, right? We never really know where he is or who he is, right? Because he has a lot of contradictions, right? One way he hates Harry Potter, but on the other, but then we also keep like several times throughout the series of the books, right? We see that Snape actually saved Harry Potter from danger several times, despite being an asshole to him. So layer in contradictions in your character, and that's really a great way to make your character stand out and make them memorable. Now, those are like the basic character things you need to consider when coming up with your hero. Now, there's a huge topic, right? But we're just scratching the surface here. But hopefully, think about all of these things when you're coming up with a story. And this goes for not only your main character, but all of your characters. And you please put in the work for the supporting characters as well. They also you need to do the same work for them. You don't have to go as deep with them, but you still need to make them fully fleshed out characters. Got it. So the next thing, of course, now we have a big idea. You have a character. You have a fascinating, cool character. Now it's time to come up with that engaging plot. So that this is also where, like, when you have a really cool plot, that's also where you find all the cool trailer moments, right? What is going to happen in the story? And the first important thing is to understand the plot comes from character, right? That's also why it's so important that you have an active character who's capable of doing stuff, because the character is going to be is going to be faced with some very hard choices, and we're going to see the character choose A or B, and that ultimately creates the plot. So, but we still need all these external elements. That's also what the plot is, right? There's a lot of external elements. Oftentimes, writers overlook this factor because, like, they all focused on their characters. But the plot is we need that external story. So what is the external story? First of all, we need to come up with a really cool world. What is the world that the hero lives in, right? This can represent, like, what is the world? Is there a problem with the world, right? That also, like, there's a reflection of the hero's problem. What are the rules of the world? Who are the characters inhabiting this world? Like, how do the characters in this world behave? Who are they? And so on, right? What color is this world? What is it? A dark world? Is it a grim world? Is this a light world? Is it a happy place? Like, what? This also has a lot to do with the environment you're putting your hero in. So really come up with a really fascinating world, right? A lived-in world, and almost consider the world a character on its own, right? Because it can, like Harry Potter, right? Hogwarts. Who don't want to go to Hogwarts? We all want to go to Hogwarts. It's not even the characters that's so, like, those are almost secondary. We want to go to Hogwarts because it's such a fascinating world to explore. Okay, got it. So next thing, huge thing for the plot, which again often I don't see this in new writer screenplays. The want. It's often forgotten. It's because the characters, they're all about the characters like problem. Oh, I'm hurting. I'm a victim. But your characters need a very, very powerful want. Now that's also why your character needs to be capable of doing something, because there's going to be a big problem which the character is going to want to solve. That's your job, to figure out why the hero wants to solve this. But the hero needs to really want this bad, and there's no way the hero is not going to want to go on this journey, right? That's your job, to come up with that want, because that's going to drive everything. If your story doesn't have a want, you're going to impede stakes, you're going to impede conflict. Like also, like when you have a want, this is really important when it comes to conflict. Like you have a character going this way, now you have an obstacle clashing into it. Now we have conflict. Without that direction, well, it doesn't matter what obstacles you have, because your hero is not gonna crash into them, so it doesn't really matter. You need to come up with a very powerful want. And again, we only just a little bit here why the want is so important, because it creates conflict. We need conflict. Drama is conflict. So the formula for conflict is intention plus obstacles equals drama / conflict, right? So you want that intention, and this goes through for the overall story. That's this huge intention, aka the want. Then that's going to face obstacles, which creates conflict and a crisis. But this also goes like down to a whole scene level, right? Every scene there needs to be an intention. Usually there are characters with different intentions, and that because they have different intentions, they clash, and that kind of becomes conflict. And that also leads to the other thing, right? Relationships are key to your story. Like all great movies have a main relationship. Lord of the Rings, Frodo and Sam, right? That's the main relationship. But there's so many main relationships in that movie, right? That's an ensemble movie. That's probably not the best one to pick from. You can also pick like Shawshank Redemption, Andy and Morgan Freeman's character. Again, main relationship, super key, best friends, right? And you will be able to find this main relationship in pretty much any great story. And they are so key to really also like Good Will Hunting, right? Will and Sean, like Robin Williams' character, right? His mentor. That's the main relationship. It is so much of the heart of your story can be expressed through your main relationships. And so make sure to build out a world and really make sure the world is inhabited by a lot of really fascinating supporting characters who can contrast your hero, but also be really close to you here. Have you like even the antagonist and the protagonist, like the hero and the villain, always also have a relationship with one another, right? And a really cool antagonist has a really close relation to the villain, because they're kind of like mirroring each other. They understand each other. That makes for a fascinating struggle right there. But again, what's your main relationship in your story? And stories can have more than one. And the last thing in a great plot, right? There's some type of urgency, right? And again, this is the big problem. It's happening right now. Something has happened now. There's a situation going on that has to be solved now, not tomorrow. Now. And if you don't solve it, there's going to be big stakes. There's going to be big, that's going to be consequences. So we want to prevent those consequences. We need to come up with how to make it relevant. Why does the character have to act today and not tomorrow? Give them urgency. Also, that's also you can also use a device such as a time bomb, right? If the hero knows there's a bomb somewhere, they need to go out and make sure to defuse that bomb before it blows up New York. And again, this is very, very common to use in action movies, right? But it can also be in a relationship story where if you don't act fast, your lover is about to, the other character who are main characters in love with, they're gonna move away. Maybe if they have planned to move in a week or something, and now our hero has to make the other character fall in love or convince them to stay within that time span. Now that's also urgency. So make it relevant to create that urgency. Make the problem big and relevant right now, that it has to be solved. Then we have structure, right? How do you structure your plot to create an engaging narrative that is and a cohesive narrative with rising actions that keeps engaging the viewer, right? So we start with Act 1, there's Act 2, and there's Act 3, right? This is a classic 3-act structure: a beginning, middle, and an end. Let me move myself a little bit. So we have a starting point, we have an inciting incident, there's usually some kind of resistance. Here they call it doubts. I will call it some, also if you're familiar with the hero's journey, in that they will call it the refusal of the call, right? The hero is not quite ready to embark on the adventure or the journey or the opportunity or whatever the story is. They're not quite ready to embark on it and actually take that active lead role and actually solve the story, right? But something happened there, and the Act 1 climax, which is basically now the hero is locked in, and they're determined to go on this journey, or usually forced to go on the journey. They face obstacles. They get to the midpoint. There's a huge turning point here. The hero usually learns something profound about themselves that will help them propel them forward. And again, more obstacle until you usually hits the Act 2 climax. Another huge, right? The hero's almost solved, like it's actually now has a chance to solve the problem, but the hero's not yet ready to. It's still not complete. Usually, there's a wound or something that wrong belief that's keeping the hero from actually succeeding, which leads to defeat, which leads to the lowest point in the story. A key turning point to have in all your stories, right? To consider what is your lowest point. Some call it the visit to the graveyard. This is all this lost is also another popular name for it. So this is really where your hero goes steep, right? It's also kind of a metaphor for your hero now really hitting rock bottom. Usually, somehow usually another character helps the hero, offers a hand and gives the hero an insight into what was wrong. So why the hero failed the quest or the journey prior to this. Now the hero learns what was missing, like the flaw or the wound they have. Now they're suddenly aware of it, and they have the solution. They have now healed, so they will come up again. They will rise from the depth, and they will now come back to really face the climax of and really play an active part in the climax and actually solve the big problem. Usually, like in a superhero movie, like in a big action movie, they will face the villain, right? In a love story, the two lovers will finally clash, and they will finally usually they will get together, right? And again, this is the biggest it's the highest point of your story, the most exciting aspect of your story. This is what you have been building towards, and the hero is finally there, and they're overcoming. They usually solve the problem, unless it's a tragedy, which in that case they will fail. And then again, we have after the climax, there's usually some kind of aftermath. What does life look like after this? And if you're writing a show, usually it's not uncommon to end right after the climax with a cliffhanger, right? To lead into the next episode. But it varies. But this is the classical 3-act structure right here. Go look that up. There's also that's the hero's journey. There's so many different story structures out there. Find the one that works for you. This is a classic one. And again, the key thing here is just to begin the beginning, middle, and end. All stories has it. There's different ways of breaking it up to really help you shape the stories. Whoa! And now we have all the things, right? We have a good idea. We have some great characters. We have a great plot. Now it really comes down to writing on the page, right? You want to write a page turner of a screenplay, right? You want it to be, and how to do that, right? You really need to make it an easy read. There needs to be a lot of white space. That means your action line should really only be 1, 2, maybe 3 lines. Same goes for dialogue. A rule of thumb is never have your dialogue exceeds 3 lines. Usually dialogue is shorter. Now there will be exception, right? Sometimes a character will have a monologue, but often there will only be 1 or 2 monologues in a whole feature, right? Often, as a rule of thumb, always 2, maybe 3 lines, action or dialogue, both of them, right? Keep it short. We want that white space. You can also see it here in the image, right? We want a lot of white space. The more white space you have, the easier for the eye, the faster your screenplay is to read, the better flow it's going to have, and the reader will have a better experience with it. Also, you want to show, don't tell. This is also key, right? It's too easy to accidentally tell what's happening instead of showing what's happening, right? So you have to, when you're writing, you have to see you are the lens. You're writing through a lens, and you're describing You're basically just telling me what's on this. You're describing, you're showing me in your writing what's on the screen. You cannot tell me what's on it. And this is a huge topic also that takes some time to learn. Again, go on Google and just really learn about show don't tell, because this is a really important one to nail. Also, another thing is, again, avoid generic verbs like walk, run, sits. Like they're just boring. They're overused. Come up with some, like use a thesaurus, and just find better words for it. Right? It sounds much better to have like a character chasing down another character versus a character running after another character. Right? There's a huge difference. That's also a way to really distinguish, like really not distinguish. Sorry about that. That's also using you can really spice up. You can really spice up your writing with some creative verbs, because they can also really help. Like not only would they help with the flow of the not only would they help with the reading, not only will the some active verbs help with the flow of reading, but they can also help like paint character. And also, like last thing on writing on the page, right? You need memorable scenes. You need to come up. Every scene counts. If you're putting it on the page, it counts, and it better be good, right? Every single line of dialogue and action, they have purpose. There's intent behind it. If they don't have a purpose or intent, if you just did kind of like typing it down because you want to get it, or you want to get to where you're really going, well, the odds are the reader's not going to get to where you want them to go because you lost them along the way. Everything counts. You need every scene counts. Make the scene counts, make the scene memorable, make it cool. Again, huge thing. But just, again, start reading up on this. Okay, wow. This is a long one. Thank you so much, guys, for staying in here. Now we got to that. Now we have all of these things, right? It's time to really structure your story as well. And we need to create that narrative flow. So you can really take your now, okay, so now we've gone through everything. You hopefully at some point you will have a first draft, but now what? Maybe that's where you are right now. You're probably, if you just finished your first draft, there's a good chance you're suffering from a first draft high. You think this is the best thing that's out there, right? This is Oscar worthy what you have. Because you've been naive, you're not unexperienced. You will think that you will really think this is a great screenplay. And you're not alone. I was there too, right? Back in the days when I first started writing screenplays, like I wrote my three first features, booked a flight to Hollywood, and I was like, hey, producers, come buy my screenplays. No one did. And you know what? I'm embarrassed that I even brought those screenplays with me, because those were first draft. I can't even look at them today. They suck. I honestly thought they were Oscar worthy. No, they were terrible. I'm sorry, and you probably, and again, if you're a new writer and you just finished, you're not going to believe me. Now, this is a typical, you're probably suffering from the first draft, but get down off your high horse and start realizing it can be better. Your screenplay can be better, because you will have problems in it. Now, there's also another group of writers who never really satisfied. They're not happy with the screenplay. Maybe that's where you are. It's not as good as you wanted it to be. It's perfectly natural, right? I think we all suffer from that to a degree. It can always get better. We just don't know how. And that's why it's so important to get feedback. You need feedback, because without feedback, you don't know what you have. You have no idea what you have. And you need feedback from multiple sources. And no, it cannot be your friends. It cannot be people who are not writing or reading screenplays on a daily basis. So like if they're working in the film industry, great, they're probably used to reading screenplays. And other screenwriters, right? Other screenwriters are the best resources, right? You can just like go onto Facebook and go on and join some of the Facebook groups and just ask for feedback if you want to. If you want some more qualified help, again, there's several services out there where you can actually hire like actual screenwriters to give you feedback. And to get feedback, you need at least 3 different qualified notes of feedback before you can really start like figuring out whether you have something or not, or at least find out what's wrong with it so you can start to improve it and make it better. And that's the process of it, right? A lot of professional writers, they all say you need to rewrite your screenplay 10, 15, 20 times, maybe even more. Now, again, So you're in it for the long haul. Again, back to the first point about perseverance. Now you also need, and now once you have rewritten it many times, as stated right here, rewrite it many times, right? It's now time to enter contests. You can start to query producers. You need to go out networking to see if you get your work out there. Hopefully you can land some pitches, And if you continuously do this over and over again, and you don't see any results, well, odds are your screenplay is not very good, or you are, well, at least the contest, right? If you're not placing in contests, your screenplay is probably not very good. If you don't get hearing back from producers, well, your pitch is probably not very good. Or if someone you actually do find someone to read your screenplay, but they reject you, they don't want to work with you, well, your screenplay is probably not very good. So also make sure to ask them, why didn't they want to do it? If you get the opportunity for someone rejecting you, ask them why, and learn from it. Now, there's a big thing again. Most new screenwriters like to do this, and I think even a lot of emerging screenwriters, right? We have because we have a really great idea for a screenplay, but maybe we even managed to write a screenplay that's really, really good. But you know what? If you're talking to a manager or an agent, they want to know what else you got. If they're going to take you on, these are the people who actually is going to make sure to open doors for you, but they need to see that you are an investment for them so that you can make them money. In order for you to make them money, you need several projects. You need to continuously be able to make them money. And that's just the reality of the business. So you need to display more ideas, more screenplay. You need to show that you are a quality writer. So you will be asked what else you got. Also, maybe you meet a producer who loves your screenplay, but right now it's not a fit for them, but they love it and they would love to use it for someone else. Then they could also ask you, what else you got? Now it would really suck if you couldn't offer them something else, right? So if you only have written 1 or 2 screenplays, no, you don't have enough. There's a rule of thumb. You should have at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 screenplays that are really. That's not just good; they're great. They have been tested. You receive feedback. There's just this is out. This is when you have continuously heard for each several screenplay. This is a really, really good screenplay. Once you have that, now you should actually start going out to seek representation and producing everything, and et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't have that and you only have 1 screenplay, and now you get that no, and you can't give them anything else, there's a good chance, well, you just blew it, and they're never going to talk to you again. You might never get that chance again if you were able to get it. So make sure. So what else you got? To start thinking about. If you only have this one great idea, already now start to think about what other ideas do you have? What other ideas could become these great screenplays that you can write? Right. So that was a long one, way longer than I intended. Thank you so much for staying with me. Now, hopefully you got some value out of this. I really, let me know if there's anything here you really if there's a takeaway from this video that really was profound to you, and or maybe you even just have some questions. Let me know down in the comment section, and I will make sure I will personally reply to every single one of them if it's a legit question. I would love to chat with you guys and gals, with you fascinating writers out there, right? Let me know what you liked about this video, and please help me out here and just click the like button here. If you just got one little tidbit that you can actually use for something, just click the like button in the video and help support me, and so this video can get out to more screenwriters. So subscribe to the channel for more great content like this. In the future, hopefully they won't be this long, but thank you for tuning in and sticking with me, and keep writing.